Hello and welcome to Japan Lyric Room. In this program, we explore the lyrics of Japanese songs, delivering clear explanations of their meanings and unique cultural backgrounds.
Yes, welcome everyone.
Please note that while the voices and illustrations in this video are AI generated, the project itself is run by two Japanese creators living in Japan. The script is carefully researched and written by us to provide original explanations.
Exactly.
So, imagine being 15 years old, right?
Okay.
You open the morning newspaper, and your eyes catch this really small, easily overlooked article.
Yeah, the kind of thing you might usually just skip right past.
Right, but it's about a girl. Someone your exact age, navigating the exact same confusing period of adolescence, who went to the train tracks and ended her own life.
Oh, wow. Just devastating.
It really is. And how does reading that single paragraph fundamentally rewire your entire existence?
That's a heavy question.
Yeah. Today we are exploring the lyrics of a song born from that very specific tragic moment. We're looking at Kyogenshou, which translates to I am a liar.
Ah, yes. By the iconic Japanese artist Sheena Ringo.
Exactly. This is the opening track of her massive, landmark year 2000 album, Shouso Strip.
Such an important album.
It is. And we actually decided to do this lyric explanation based on a truly passionate request from one of you, our listeners on YouTube.
We love getting those requests, by the way.
We really do. And they describe this track as a hidden gem that's just fiercely cherished by her core fans.
And, you know, it is the ultimate hidden gem, mostly because of where it sits in her timeline.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you look at the factual backdrop of Kyogenshou, we are actually examining Sheena Ringo's oldest song.
Wait, really? Like her very first one?
Yeah, her very first composition. It predates her official debut releases by several years, actually.
I had no idea it went back that far.
Yeah. In fact, during live performances, she has introduced this track by explicitly telling the audience, please listen to my maiden work.
Oh, wow.
It is basically the absolute ground zero of her entire songwriting career. It's the foundation everything else was built on.
That context alone, I mean, it totally changes how you hear the music.
Right.
Because usually, you know, a teenager's first composition is about, like, a crush or rebelling against their parents.
Exactly, just standard high school angst.
Yeah. But to start your entire musical journey focused on the suicide of a total stranger, that is just incredibly heavy.
It's an immense weight for a 15-year-old.
We all read tragic news stories and they make us sad for a moment, but she internalized this so deeply that it became her driving force.
To understand that profound connection, we have to look at Sheena Ringo's own deeply personal relationship with life and death.
Sheena Ringo was born with a severe condition called esophageal atresia. Basically, her esophagus didn't connect to her stomach. So she endured a massive 2-day emergency surgery literally right after she was born.
A fight for survival from her very first breath.
Right.
And because of this early trauma, she grew up with an intense, lingering awareness that she was someone who was allowed to live.
Allowed to live.
Yes. Her life had been actively saved by the intervention of others.
I see. So there's this massive underlying layer of survivor's guilt operating here. She was fighting just to breathe on day 2 of her life.
Exactly. And that survivor's guilt manifested as a permanent, heavy debt to the universe.
That makes a lot of sense.
So when she read about a 15-year-old girl who threw away the very life that she, Ringo, had fought so desperately to keep, she felt this overwhelming sense of responsibility.
It wasn't just sadness, though.
No, it felt like a mandate. She decided right then that she had to enter the world of music specifically to be an ally to girls who want to disappear.
What an incredible mission.
It is. Her stated goal, and a mission she carries to this day, honestly, is to create a world where every 15-year-old girl can confidently say, life is easy.
Wow. What a beautiful, overwhelming burden to place on yourself at that age.
It really is.
And that tension, right? Wanting to save someone while feeling completely overwhelmed by the task. It's perfectly encapsulated in the title of the song.
Yes, the title is so important.
The track is called Kyogenshou, which translates to mythomania or I am a liar.
Right.
But during our research, we found out the original demo for this song was actually titled Daijoubu.
Which means it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. And I have to push back a little on that creative choice.
How so?
Well, isn't it a bit harsh or maybe overly cynical to go from a comforting title like It's Okay to suddenly calling yourself a liar? Like, why strip away that comfort?
I get why you'd say that. It does seem cynical at first glance, but it's actually an act of radical honesty.
Honesty.
Yeah. It reveals Sheena Ringo's absolute respect for the weight of words. She realized that telling a cornered suicidal girl it's okay might actually be an irresponsible, empty platitude.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that.
Right, because if she cannot physically reach through the newspaper and pull that girl off the tracks, then promising her that everything is okay is technically a lie.
Wow. So calling yourself a liar is her way of saying what exactly?
It's her saying, I desperately want to save you, but I am terrified my words are completely powerless.
She refuses to be a hypocrite. That tension, how do you save someone when you fear your own words are empty, is just the beating heart of this song.
Absolutely.
Let's look at how she navigates that impossible situation in the lyrics, starting with the opening line.
Let's do it.
We see this intense internal emptiness right away. The direct translation is, but I wonder why it feels like my eyes are so dry. And the specific cultural nuance we uncovered for this line is, why does it feel like my eyes are so dry?
Right. And what's vital to understand here is that she isn't singing about literal physical dry eye from the weather.
Obviously not, yeah.
We are stepping into a totally devastated mental landscape. The speaker has cried so much and experienced such an intense psychological shock that her emotional reserves are completely depleted.
Like she's just completely wrung out.
Exactly. It's a state of being entirely wrung out, where the body simply cannot produce another tear.
It makes me think of an old kitchen sponge.
A sponge? How so?
You know when you take a sponge and you squeeze it and wring it out so violently and so often that the cellular structure actually breaks down?
Oh, right. It gets all stiff and weird.
Yeah, it becomes super stiff and brittle. It can't absorb a single drop of water anymore. But at the same time, if you handle it too roughly, it'll just crumble to dust.
That is a brilliant analogy.
That's the emotional fragility we're talking about here.
That physical breakdown of the sponge is the perfect way to visualize it. When a person's mental barrier is completely shattered like that, the nervous system basically misfires.
Like everything is too much.
Yeah, even perfectly mundane, natural things like the rain falling or the sound of a crowd walking by, they feel like a literal physical attack. The world becomes far too loud and too sharp.
And when your internal world is that brittle and depleted, it totally collapses your ability to picture a tomorrow.
It really does.
Ringo captures that terrifying blankness beautifully in the next lyric. The translation is, there is nothing on the map spread out as wide as my yellow hands. And the cultural nuance here is, even if I spread out the map of my future as wide as my hands can reach, I can find no answers or destinations anywhere.
We really need to unpack the color psychology she employs here.
Yeah, the yellow hands part really stuck out to me.
It's brilliant. In Japanese culture, much like in the West, yellow is heavily associated with attention, anxiety, and warning.
Like caution tape, right?
Exactly. Or yellow traffic light telling you to yield. By describing her own hands as yellow, she is depicting a severe, sickly, nervous agitation.
It's that awful vibrating anxiety, and I find the image of the map really haunting too.
Oh, definitely.
Usually a map represents freedom, you know, like you can go anywhere.
Right, possibilities.
But here it's the exact opposite. If a map has no destinations, no roads, no landmarks, it's just a terrifying void.
Just blank.
It's not freedom at all. It's the realization that there is no path forward.
Precisely. A blank map represents absolute nihilism. She is searching frantically, her hands shaking with that yellow anxiety, stretching the paper as far as it will go.
But finding nothing.
Right. She is met with a complete blackout of vision for her future.
So she looks up from this terrifying blank map in her hands, and she looks at the people around her. This shifts the focus to the external world.
Yes, looking outward. Literally, classmates with fish eyes are by no means enemies.
To capture the cultural nuance here, we can say this. Please do not just view your classmates who look at you with lifeless, cold eyes as your enemies.
The phrase dead fish eyes, shinda sakana no me, is a pretty famous Japanese idiom.
It is, yeah.
It describes someone whose eyes are totally dull and emotionless, but when she says they aren't your enemies, I have to push back a bit.
Okay, why is that?
Is she telling this girl who might be a victim of severe bullying or ostracization to just forgive her attackers? Because that feels a bit preachy.
I see what you mean. It's crucial we don't misinterpret this as a lecture on forgiveness. She isn't preaching at all.
Okay.
Instead, she's offering an objective step back to help the girl survive her own environment.
How does that help her survive, though?
Well, when you are in the depths of despair, paranoia sets in. The whole world looks hostile. Every blank stare feels like a judgment.
Oh, that makes sense.
But Ringo is gently suggesting a shift in perspective. Those classmates with lifeless eyes might not be harboring malice toward you.
They might just be empty, too.
Exactly. They might just be completely numb and exhausted by life themselves. They might be wandering around the exact same fragile, empty despair that you are.
Oh, I see. So it's not forgive your attackers, it's realize that everyone else is drowning, too.
Yes.
That fundamentally strips away the paranoia. It stops you from feeling hunted, which makes navigating a high school hallway slightly less terrifying.
Exactly. It's a gentle de-escalation of the girl's hypervigilance. And she uses that exact same de-escalation technique when we arrive at the emotional core of the entire song.
Oh.
This next lyric speaks directly to the news article about the train tracks.
Let's read it. Literally. You don't need to try lying down on the train tracks.
The essential cultural nuance here is this. You don't need to resort to extreme actions like ending your life. This is the focal point of the entire composition, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It brings us right back to the 15-year-old girl in the newspaper.
It does. This is the exact moment Sheena Ringo is speaking directly through time and space to the girl who died, and to any listener currently standing on that exact same edge.
It's chilling, honestly.
And what is masterful here is her psychological framing. Notice the specific language she uses.
Yeah, she doesn't yell or anything.
Exactly. She doesn't scream, "Don't die," or "Stop what you're doing." When a person's mind is completely cornered, forceful commands can trigger a panic response.
Like it pushes them further away.
Right. By saying, "You don't need to try lying down," she uses this really soft, distancing phrasing.
It totally lowers the stakes. It's not a loud siren, you know? It's more like a whisper.
That's a great way to put it.
It actually reminds me of how you would approach a deeply frightened, wounded animal.
Oh.
You don't run at it shouting. You lower your posture, you avoid sudden movements, and you just quietly offer a different path.
That is the exact energy. It is a quiet, gentle prayer. It removes the pressure and simply offers an alternative to the cold steel of the tracks.
But stepping away from the tracks is really only step one.
Right, then you have to keep going.
How do you help someone survive the very next day? The song addresses how to start thawing the heart.
Okay, the next phrase is, literally, you don't need to doubt things pointlessly.
To express the cultural nuance of this lyric, we must say this. You don't need to close off your heart or become overly paranoid by fearing the malice of the world and others.
There's a specific Japanese word here I want to focus on, itazura ni.
Yes, itazura ni translates to pointlessly or unnecessarily. It's an interesting choice because it's a somewhat old-fashioned literary word. By using it, she elevates the tone.
Ah, okay, I see.
She is telling a girl who has lost the ability to trust anyone that she doesn't need to be so unnecessarily terrified of the world.
You know, it reminds me of how trauma physically and mentally affects us.
How so?
When you've been hurt repeatedly, your defense mechanism kicks in. You put up thorns like a porcupine just to keep people away so you can survive.
Right.
This lyric feels like it's gently asking this bruised young soul to lower those defensive spikes. Like, you don't have to fight anymore. The war is paused.
The porcupine analogy is incredibly fitting. Ringo understands that the paranoia and the spikes are a trauma response. She isn't judging the girl for being guarded.
She's just offering a break.
She's simply offering her permission to rest. But why should the girl trust her? That question is answered in the penultimate phrase, where the connection between the singer and the listener becomes absolute.
Let's explore that connection. The phrase is, you are always, always living at the absolute limit.
The specific cultural nuance we have to understand here is this.
Yeah.
You are always living on the absolute edge of your mental limits, holding on in a dangerous state where one wrong step could cause you to collapse.
The word giri-giri is an onomatopoeia, right?
It is, yeah.
Japanese uses sound symbolism a lot to convey deep emotional states.
It does. Giri-giri describes the sound or the visceral feeling of a rope being stretched so tight it is beginning to fray and snap.
Oh, wow.
It's the absolute brink of human limits.
Yeah.
But to fully appreciate the empathy in this line, we have to look back at the contrast Sheena Ringo builds earlier in the song.
Right, because earlier in the track, she describes herself, the narrator, using a totally different onomatopoeia, boroboro.
Yes. Boroboro means worn out, battered, falling to pieces. Think of a tattered rag. So you have the singer, who admits she is boroboro, tattered and bruised by her own physical and emotional struggles, reaching out across the void to this 15-year-old girl who is giri-giri, pulled so tight she is about to snap.
It's a communion of two bruised souls.
Exactly.
And that's why it works. It's not a perfect, healthy savior reaching down from a pedestal to pull someone up, which can feel, condescending.
Right, it feels authentic.
It's one broken person looking at another broken person at eye level and saying, I see exactly how close to the edge you are.
That shared vulnerability is the key to the entire song. If someone hasn't acknowledged the darkness, their light feels cheap.
So true.
Because Ringo has admitted her own tattered state, the final comfort she offers feels earned. It's grounded in reality. Let's look at the ultimate comfort she provides in the final phrase.
I won't say that surrendering yourself to a dazzling day is a bad thing.
And the cultural nuance here is this. Stepping out of the darkness to accept a bright, warm, everyday life is by no means a sinful thing.
There is a really sad truth about human psychology that we often overlook.
What's that?
People who are used to suffering, especially those carrying deep trauma or guilt, they often feel incredibly guilty when things finally go right for them.
Yes, absolutely.
Happiness feels like a trap or like a betrayal of their past suffering. They feel they don't deserve it.
It's a very common, very tragic barrier to healing. When pain is all, joy feels alien and wrong.
Yeah.
And that is why this final lyric is the ultimate salvation of the song. She doesn't just cheerfully say, go be happy. She addresses that underlying guilt directly. She says, it is not a bad thing.
She is literally granting the girl permission to heal.
Yes, exactly.
Permission to step into the warm light, to just accept a gentle breeze blowing through her hair without feeling like she has to pay a price for it.
It's an absolution. After acknowledging the empty map, the lifeless eyes of the classmates, the unbearable tension of being giri-giri, she simply says, you're allowed to let the sun warm you.
So, what does this all mean when we step back and look at the whole picture? It's been nearly 25 years since this song was released.
Yeah, a long time.
Yet it still resonates so deeply with people who discover it, serving almost as a psychological lifeline.
Its longevity speaks to the raw authenticity of the emotion behind it. Sheena Ringo took her immense vulnerability and, recognizing the limitations of language, wrapped her comfort in a cynical title, Kyogenshou.
Right.
By calling herself a liar, she proved that she understands the devastating weight of words better than anyone. She refused to offer false hope.
She knew she couldn't magically fix the world or guarantee a happy ending.
No, she couldn't.
But instead of staying silent, she took her own pain and laid down a cushion of song on those train tracks for anyone who might need a soft place to land.
That's beautifully said. And that leaves us with a profound question to consider in our own daily lives.
What's the question?
Think about the words of comfort you offer the people around you when they are struggling. When you tell a friend, it's gonna be okay, are you just saying it to feel the uncomfortable silence? Or are you willing to sit with them in the dark, bruised and battered, to help make it true?
Thank you so much for listening. We feature various Japanese songs and provide detailed explanations on our website. Please check the link in the description to explore more. If you enjoyed this program, please subscribe to our channel and let us know your thoughts or song requests in the comments. See you next time.
This was Japan Lyric Room.